Have you ever found yourself staring into an inexplicable void, a hollow space within your very core that no achievement, no relationship, no personal triumph seems capable of filling? Do you sometimes feel, deep down, that despite all your efforts, everything is ultimately futile, that your contributions are meaningless, or that your entire existence lacks any inherent purpose or value? Perhaps these unsettling sensations intensify most acutely not in moments of solitude, but when you are surrounded by the very people who are supposed to be your foundation, within the intricate and often suffocating dynamics of your own family. What if that pervasive sense of emptiness, that nagging doubt about your own significance, isn't some random existential crisis you're grappling with alone, but rather a meticulously cultivated psychological weapon, subtly deployed against you? This isn't about the grand philosophical debates of nihilism you might encounter in a college textbook or a late-night discussion. This is about something far more insidious, far more personal, and devastatingly effective. A practical, lived nihilism wielded by narcissistic families to dominate your mind, control your actions, and extinguish your spirit. It's a silent, invisible warfare waged within the family system, designed to undermine your sense of self and purpose, leaving you adrift and dependent. For countless individuals across America, from the bustling streets of New York City to the quiet suburbs of the Midwest, this isn't just a theory. It's a lived reality, a constant battle against an unseen enemy that has stolen their very sense of meaning. Imagine living in a world where your accomplishments are routinely dismissed, your passions ridiculed, and your dreams slowly eroded, not by external forces, but by those closest to you. This is the world crafted by the primary narcissist, the central orchestrator of this psychological manipulation, whose every action, often subtle and seemingly benign, serves to chip away at your internal framework. They are the source of this nihilistic conditioning, and their goal is simple: to keep you disoriented, perpetually questioning your own reality and worth, thereby maintaining absolute psychological control. This isn't just about harsh words. It's about a pervasive atmosphere, a constant, low-frequency hum of invalidation that slowly but surely convinces you that nothing truly matters, especially not you. You, if this resonates, are likely the scapegoat, the designated target within the family system, the individual whose inner world is systematically bombarded with these seeds of doubt and futility. You are the one who experiences the direct, crushing impact of this practical nihilism on your sense of self, your ambition, and your very reason for being. The manipulations are often so covert, so deeply embedded in the daily fabric of family life, that you may have struggled for years to even articulate what feels so profoundly wrong. It's like trying to grasp smoke. The feeling is undeniable, but the source remains elusive. You might have blamed yourself, believing you were simply too sensitive, too ambitious, or perhaps just fundamentally flawed, never realizing that the script for your self-doubt was written by someone else. This profound sense of meaninglessness, this feeling that your efforts are pointless, your achievements trivial, and your future bleak, is not a personal failing. It is a calculated outcome, a direct result of the psychological warfare waged by the primary narcissist, and often facilitated by the enablers, those other family members who, whether consciously or unconsciously, reinforce the toxic dynamics and perpetuate this nihilistic environment. They might dismiss your feelings, rationalize the hurtful behavior, or simply look the other way, all contributing to the erosion of your reality. This isn't just about making you feel bad. It's about making you feel nothing, or rather, making you feel that everything is nothing, thereby stripping you of the motivation and self-belief required to challenge the family system and forge your own path. The goal of this revelation isn't to merely validate your pain, though that is a crucial first step. It is to equip you with the understanding necessary to dismantle these insidious mechanisms, to pull back the curtain on the psychological manipulation that has held you captive. We are about to embark on a journey that will expose the tactics, illuminate the motivations, and provide you with a transformative path to reclaim your personal agency. This isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving, about reconstructing your reality from the ground up, and ultimately, about escaping the relentless cycle of emotional domination that has defined your life within the family system. Recognizing these insidious manipulations, understanding the precise ways in which practical nihilism is deployed, is not just helpful knowledge. It is vital knowledge for your liberation, the very key to unlocking a future where your meaning is your own, and your purpose is self-defined, not dictated by the architects of your past. But how do you even begin to grasp such an elusive freedom when your entire life has felt like a carefully constructed cage, its bars invisible yet undeniably present, binding your very spirit? Perhaps you've lived with a persistent, gnawing suspicion that something fundamental about your reality is skewed, that the emotional compass you rely on has been tampered with, leaving you lost in a fog of self-doubt. This isn't just a fleeting bad mood or a typical family squabble. For many, it's a pervasive, soul-deep confusion that has shadowed every significant moment, every aspiration, every attempt to simply exist authentically. You might recognize this pain, this profound disorientation, because it echoes in the quiet corners of your inner world of the scapegoat, a constant whisper telling you that you are fundamentally flawed, that your feelings are inconvenient, or that your very existence is a burden. Consider those moments when you poured your heart into an achievement, perhaps a stellar report card, a promotion at work, or even just a perfectly cooked Thanksgiving dinner, only to have it met with a dismissive wave, a backhanded compliment, or an immediate pivot to someone else's perceived superiority. That's nice, but your cousin just got into an Ivy League, the primary narcissist might have casually remarked, effectively shrinking your victory into insignificance, much like a Grand Canyon view reduced to a postage stamp. Or perhaps your genuine excitement about a new project, a passion, or a burgeoning relationship was met with a cynical sneer, a scoff, or a dire prediction of failure, leaving you to wonder if your enthusiasm was naive, even foolish. This isn't merely criticism. It's a systematic invalidation designed to erode your confidence, to teach you that your efforts are inherently less valuable, less significant than those of others, or even than the arbitrary standards set by the family system. Have you ever been told your emotions were too much, that your sadness was melodrama, your anger an overreaction, your joy an inappropriate display? Why are you so sensitive? It's just a joke. They might have chided, or you're always so dramatic. Can't you just lighten up? These aren't just casual remarks. They are psychological weapons designed to make the scapegoat distrust their own internal compass, to believe that their emotional responses are illegitimate, even pathological. This constant gaslighting creates a profound internal conflict, where natural human reactions are deemed unacceptable, forcing you to suppress genuine feelings and, over time, to question the very validity of your own lived experience. Your inner world of the scapegoat becomes a battleground where authentic self-expression is met with swift, often brutal, psychological punishment, leading to a deep-seated belief that there is something inherently wrong with you. This leads to a pervasive sense of guilt and self-blame, a heavy shroud that smothers any flicker of self-worth. If things go wrong, no matter how unrelated to your actions, you find yourself shouldering the burden. If you had just done X, why wouldn't have happened? Or why do you always make things so difficult for everyone? The enablers often play a crucial role here, reinforcing the narrative that the scapegoat is the problem, the reason for the family system's dysfunction, thereby absolving the primary narcissist of any accountability. You learn to walk on eggshells, constantly anticipating the next accusation, the next judgment, internalizing the belief that your presence, your actions, even your very thoughts, are a source of strife. This manufactured guilt becomes a powerful tether, binding you to the family system and to the primary narcissist as control, making any attempt at liberation feel like an act of profound betrayal. Within the inner world of the scapegoat, this constant barrage of invalidation, minimization, and blame manifests as a relentless struggle against an invisible force. It's like trying to run through quicksand, Every step forward met with immense resistance, draining your motivation, your energy, and your will to even try. You start to question everything, your memories, your perceptions, your very sanity. Did that really happen? Or am I just imagining things? Am I truly a bad person? Or am I being unfairly targeted? This insidious doubt is the fertile ground where nihilistic conditioning takes root. You begin to believe that your efforts are futile, that your passions are pointless, that your dreams are destined for failure. Why strive for greatness when it will only be mocked? Why feel deeply when your emotions will be dismissed? Why seek meaning when it seems to be systematically stripped away from every facet of your existence? This isn't accidental. It's a deliberate, though often subconscious, strategy wielded by the primary narcissist to maintain absolute psychological control. For them, your self-sufficiency, your sense of purpose, your independent meaning represents a direct threat to their fragile ego and their dominance within the family system. By systematically undermining your intrinsic value, by eroding your belief in a meaningful future for yourself, they ensure your dependence, your compliance, and your continued availability to serve their needs. The enablers, through their silence, their complicity, or their active participation in the gaslighting, inadvertently or intentionally reinforce this nihilistic environment, making it nearly impossible for the scapegoat to find external validation or support within the family unit. The central conflict, then, becomes stark and profound. Your innate human drive for meaning, for purpose, for a life that feels significant and authentic, pitted against the family system's systematic, relentless erosion of that very meaning. It's a battle for your soul, a struggle to define your own reality in the face of a reality that has been meticulously distorted and diminished by others. You were born with the potential to create, to connect, to contribute, to find joy and fulfillment. Yet every step towards actualizing that potential has been met with a brick wall of nihilistic discouragement. Take a moment now to reflect on specific instances in your own life. Can you recall times when your aspirations, your hopes for the future, felt not just challenged, but outright crushed by a member of your family? Think of moments when your identity, who you believe yourself to be, felt dissolved, questioned, or replaced by a narrative that was not your own, a narrative of inadequacy or worthlessness. These aren't just isolated incidents. They're the building blocks of the profound psychological manipulation we are about to dissect. The subtle, yet devastating tactics that transform a yearning for purpose into a hollow echo of futility, laying the groundwork for understanding the deeper psychological manipulation at play. To truly grasp the insidious nature of this domination, one must first dismantle the very architecture of the narcissistic family system itself, meticulously observing how it lays the psychological groundwork for nihilism to take root. This isn't merely about setting rules for curfew or chores, but about dictating narratives, emotions, and even the very thoughts permitted within the family's invisible walls. The primary narcissist demands unwavering allegiance, not just to their person, but to their meticulously crafted version of reality, a reality often as distorted as a funhouse mirror. Any deviation, any hint of independent thought or feeling is met with swift, often brutal, emotional punishment, whether through icy silence, explosive rage, or cunning passive aggression. This creates an atmosphere of pervasive surveillance, where the scapegoat learns to meticulously self-censor, to walk on psychological eggshells, constantly anticipating and attempting to preempt the inevitable backlash. The enablers, often unknowingly, become complicit in this enforcement, either by actively echoing the primary narcissist's decrees or by passively accepting them, thereby normalizing the profoundly abnormal and solidifying the toxic power structure. At the core of this system is a chilling absence of genuine empathy. The primary narcissist views other family members not as distinct individuals with their own rich inner lives, but as extensions of themselves or as mere props in their grand, self-serving narrative. The pain, frustration, or despair of the scapegoat is not merely unrecognized. It is often dismissed, ridiculed, or most insidiously weaponized. There is no emotional reciprocity, no authentic comfort offered. When the scapegoat dares to express hurt or vulnerability, they are invariably met with cold indifference, irritated impatience, or outright accusations of being overly sensitive, dramatic, or intentionally manipulative, much like a child being told their scraped knee is nothing to cry about, even as it bleeds. This relentless emotional invalidation systematically stars the scapegoat's developing emotional landscape, teaching them, implicitly and explicitly, that their feelings are irrelevant, burdensome, or fundamentally wrong, paving the way for a profound sense of emotional futility. Further entrenching this dynamic is the pervasive use of projection. Any perceived imperfection, deep-seated insecurity, or moral failing within the primary narcissist is externalized and ruthlessly attributed to the scapegoat. If the primary narcissist harbors feelings of inadequacy, the scapegoat is labeled a perpetual failure, never quite measuring up, perhaps even blamed for the family's woes. If the primary narcissist struggles with dishonesty, the scapegoat is accused of lying or being untrustworthy, their every word scrutinized with suspicion. This psychological sleight of hand is a masterful defense mechanism, ensuring the primary narcissist remains pristine and blameless in their own warped self-perception, while simultaneously burdening the scapegoat with an unbearable weight of false guilt, shame, and responsibility for problems that are not their own. It's a psychological burden akin to being forced to carry a heavy, malodorous backpack filled with someone else's emotional trash, day in and day out, without complaint or acknowledgement. Within this meticulously constructed family system, the primary narcissist reigns supreme as the ultimate authority, the undisputed arbiter of truth, morality, and reality itself. Their word is absolute law. Their subjective opinions are presented as incontrovertible facts, and their volatile emotions are the only ones that genuinely matter or deserve consideration. There is simply no permissible space for questioning, for healthy dissent, or for the cultivation of independent thought. Dissent is betrayal, curiosity is defiance. This creates a profoundly stifling and oppressive environment where individual growth is systematically stunted, and the scapegoat's nascent sense of self is continually crushed under the relentless weight of this autocratic rule. The enablers, whether consciously or unconsciously, actively reinforce this rigid structure, often out of a complex mix of fear, deeply ingrained habit, or their own distorted sense of loyalty, thereby solidifying the primary narcissist position at the unchallengeable apex of the family pyramid, much like a dictatorial regime maintains power through its loyal cadres. This brings us to gaslighting, the insidious bedrock upon which the nihilistic reality within these families is meticulously constructed. Imagine living your life perpetually enveloped by a psychological fog, a constant, disorienting mist that obscures clarity. The primary narcissist systematically and relentlessly denies the scapegoat's experiences, memories, and even their most fundamental perceptions. Phrases like, "that never happened," "you're imagining things," "you're far too sensitive," or "I never said anything of the sort" become a haunting refrain, echoing in the scapegoat's mind until they doubt their own senses. This relentless, calculated assault on the scapegoat's subjective reality forces them to profoundly question their own sanity, their own senses, their own memories, and their very capacity for accurate judgment. This leads to an excruciating state of cognitive dissonance, the agonizing mental stress of attempting to reconcile two utterly conflicting realities simultaneously, the one they perceive and the one the primary narcissist insists is true. This internal conflict is not only mentally exhausting and emotionally debilitating, but leaves the scapegoat profoundly vulnerable, desperately craving any semblance of certainty, even if that certainty is offered by the very architect of their confusion, the primary narcissist. When the scapegoat's experiences, feelings, and inherent truths are consistently denied, dismissed, or cunningly twisted beyond recognition. A terrifying and corrosive thought begins to take root deep within the inner world of the scapegoat. If my reality isn't real, if my authentic feelings are inherently wrong, if my cherished memories are nothing more than fabricated delusions, then what, if anything, is truly real? What, in this chaotic landscape, does inherently matter? This systematic and relentless invalidation is the fertile, toxic ground upon which the seeds of nihilism are sown and allowed to flourish. The scapegoat gradually comes to believe that nothing is inherently true, nothing genuinely holds meaning, and, most devastatingly, their own judgment is utterly worthless. Their internal compass, once a guide for navigation, is shattered into irreparable fragments, leaving them emotionally adrift in a vast, cold sea of existential uncertainty, desperately longing for an anchor, any anchor. And, in a cruel twist of fate, the only entity seemingly capable of offering that fleeting sense of stability is the very individual who meticulously severed their ropes, the primary narcissist. The family system, under the iron grip of the primary narcissist, ceases to be a haven. It transforms into a psychological fortress, an insular cult of personality where the primary narcissist is the central, unquestioned deity. External perspectives, be they from concerned friends, supportive teachers, insightful therapists, or even objective media, anyone who might dare to offer a different viewpoint or, God forbid, validate the scapegoat's reality is systematically demonized, ridiculed, or dismissed as a threat. Once external validation is systematically obliterated, the stage is meticulously set for a more insidious internal assault, one that weaponizes the very fabric of meaning itself. This is where we introduce the concept of nihilism, not as an abstract philosophical debate you might encounter in a college lecture hall, but as a chillingly practical tool wielded by the primary narcissist within the family system. Forget the intellectual discourse on existential dread. This is about the lived, agonizing experience of imposed meaninglessness, a psychological maneuver designed to utterly dismantle the scapegoat's will and agency. This isn't about pondering the grand questions of a universe over a craft beer in a trendy Brooklyn bar. It's about having your personal universe systematically stripped of all value. The nihilism we're discussing here is a direct, calculated attack on your sense of purpose, a corrosive acid poured directly onto your aspirations and identity. The primary narcissist, often with the passive or active complicity of the enablers, doesn't just disagree with your choices. They actively, relentlessly, and often subtly instill a profound belief that nothing the scapegoat does truly matters. Every effort is subtly, or not so subtly, framed as futile, every dream destined for spectacular failure, every personal triumph dismissed as insignificant or accidental. This psychological warfare manifests through a relentless barrage of tactics. Constant criticism, thinly veiled as tough love or just being realistic, chips away at self-worth. Belittling remarks, often delivered with a smirk or a dismissive wave of the hand, invalidate accomplishments and aspirations. Emotional blackmail, a masterstroke of manipulation, ties the scapegoat's sense of self-worth directly to the primary narcissist's approval, an approval that is, of course, perpetually withheld. Praise, encouragement, and genuine support become rare, precious commodities, doled out sparingly or never at all, ensuring the scapegoat remains starved for validation, forever seeking an unreachable standard. This creates an environment where the scapegoat learns, deep in their bones, that their contributions are worthless, their desires trivial, and their very existence secondary to the needs and ego of the primary narcissist. Centuries ago, the brilliant German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, a name many recognize even if they haven't delved into his complex works, issued a stark warning about the dangers of losing meaning and values. While Nietzsche himself explored the profound implications of nihilism as a societal phenomenon, the primary narcissist perverts his insights, turning them into a blueprint for personal destruction. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, a fundamental drive within individuals to assert themselves, to grow, to overcome. But within the family system, the primary narcissist actively inverts this concept, leveraging their own distorted will to power not for self-overcoming, but for crushing the will of others. They exert their dominance by systematically dismantling the scapegoat's inner strength, leading them into a state of profound meaninglessness where their own will to power is not just stifled, but utterly extinguished. This isn't about intellectual questioning. It's about psychological bludgeoning, leaving the scapegoat feeling utterly disempowered and adrift. Consider the everyday manifestations of this weaponized nihilism, insidious acts that slowly poison the inner world of the scapegoat. Imagine a young scapegoat, perhaps a budding artist in high school, proudly showing a drawing or a painting they poured hours into. The primary narcissist doesn't just offer constructive criticism. They might scoff, "Oh, that's interesting. Looks like something a kindergarten kid would do. Honestly, you think you're going to make a living off that? Better off getting a steady job at the DMV, at least that pays the bills and offers benefits." The dream isn't just discouraged. It's mocked, dismissed as inherently worthless and childish, planting the seed of futility. Or perhaps the scapegoat, now an adult, expresses a career aspiration, dreaming of moving to Silicon Valley to work in tech or starting a small business, a cozy coffee shop that embodies their passion. The primary narcissist, often echoed by the enablers, will chime in with a litany of reasons why it's impossible. You want to be a tech mogul? In Hollywood? Get real. You can barely manage your own budget. The market's so tough. Remember your cousin's bagel shop? Lasted 6 months, lost everything. You're just not cut out for that kind of stress. You're too sensitive. Their ambition isn't just questioned. It's actively sabotaged, framed as an unrealistic fantasy doomed to economic ruin, a fool's errand. The message is clear. Your efforts are inherently flawed, your intelligence lacking, your capacity for success non-existent. Even personal relationships are not safe from this corrosive influence. When the scapegoat attempts to forge healthy connections outside the family system, the primary narcissist might subtly undermine them. That new friend of yours, they're clearly just using you for your car, or your connections, or your apartment. You're far too naive to see it. You always pick the wrong people. Any independent source of joy or validation is demonized, leading the scapegoat to distrust their own judgment and isolate themselves, further entrenching them within the toxic family system. These seemingly small, daily interactions compound over time, creating a crushing weight of perceived inadequacy and futility that permeates every aspect of the scapegoat's life. Your feelings of meaninglessness, of being stuck in a loop of failure, are not inherent flaws in your character or a sign of your destiny. They are, in fact, the direct, calculated result of a relentless and sophisticated psychological attack, meticulously designed to strip you of your power and keep you tethered to the primary narcissist's control. This insidious campaign isn't random. It follows a chillingly predictable playbook, beginning with what we call the erosion of meaning. Imagine building a sturdy house, brick by brick, foundation strong, roof secure, only for an unseen force to systematically chip away at each individual brick, not with a sledgehammer, but with 1,000 tiny, persistent blows. This is precisely what the primary narcissist, often unknowingly aided by the enablers within the family system, does to the scapegoat's sense of purpose and self-worth. This first core principle is a masterful act of psychological sabotage, meticulously orchestrated to dismantle the very framework of an individual's life. We can aptly name this insidious process the architect of apathy, for it is through this calculated destruction of purpose that the primary narcissist builds a monument to the scapegoat's indifference and surrender. The human spirit, at its core, yearns for meaning. As the renowned psychiatrist Viktor Frankl once observed, those who have a why to live can bear with almost anyhow. This profound truth underscores our innate drive to find purpose in our daily existence. Whether it's through a fulfilling career, cherished relationships, creative pursuits, or contributing to a cause greater than ourselves. For most Americans, meaning is found in the pursuit of their passions. Perhaps a weekend warrior perfecting their golf swing, a dedicated community volunteer, or an aspiring entrepreneur burning the midnight oil to launch their dream startup. But for the scapegoat, this fundamental human need becomes a vulnerability, a target for a relentless psychological assault. The primary narcissist doesn't just casually dismiss the scapegoat's passions. They actively engage in a systematic, often subtle, campaign to invalidate and undermine every potential source of meaning. This isn't about healthy critique, it's about demolition. Picture the scapegoat, perhaps a young adult, excitedly sharing their ambition to become a freelance graphic designer, fueled by a genuine love for visual storytelling. The primary narcissist might scoff, "Oh, another one of your little art projects? You'll be lucky to make minimum wage living in your parents' basement. Everyone knows real money is in finance, not drawing silly pictures. What a waste of a perfectly good college education." Or perhaps the scapegoat finds solace and joy in a close friendship, only for the primary narcissist to constantly plant seeds of doubt. Are you sure they're really your friend? They seem to only call when they need something. You're too trusting, always getting taken advantage of. These aren't isolated incidents. They are a continuous drip feed of corrosive comments, dismissive gestures, and outright sabotage that penetrate deep into the inner world of the scapegoat. If the scapegoat expresses interest in a new hobby, say learning to play the guitar, the primary narcissist might sarcastically remark, "Another phase? Remember that expensive camera you bought that's now collecting dust? Don't waste your money on lessons you'll abandon in a month." If the scapegoat strives for a career promotion, the primary narcissist might subtly imply they're not smart enough, not charismatic enough, or simply not cut out for leadership, even going so far as to subtly interfere with their professional development or contacts. This constant barrage of negativity is designed to make the scapegoat question their own judgment, their capabilities, and the very validity of their desires. The erosion extends to core values as well. If the scapegoat values honesty and integrity, the primary narcissist might subtly manipulate situations to force them into compromising their principles, then shame them for their naivety or stubbornness. If the scapegoat believes in generosity and helping others, the primary narcissist might mock their altruism as foolish, suggesting they're being exploited or simply trying to buy affection. This relentless invalidation isn't just about discouraging specific activities. It's about discrediting the underlying values and motivations that give life its richness and direction. It's about stripping away the very fabric of what makes the scapegoat unique and purposeful. Consider the practical example of a scapegoat with a profound passion for culinary arts, dreaming of opening a small, farm-to-table bistro in their hometown, a place where they could share their love for fresh, local ingredients and creative dishes. Every attempt to discuss this dream, every new recipe they excitedly prepare, is met with a volley of corrosive remarks from the primary narcissist. "That's just a hobby, not a career. You'll work yourself to the bone for pennies. Do you really think people will pay for your cooking? It's fine, I guess, for a weeknight, but it's not exactly Michelin star material. Remember how you burned the Thanksgiving turkey last year? You're just not cut out for the pressure." This isn't constructive criticism. It's a calculated effort to extinguish the flame of ambition. They might even sabotage a catering opportunity by forgetting to pass on a message or subtly undermine the scapegoat's confidence right before a crucial meeting. Slowly but surely, these persistent attacks begin to work their dark magic. The scapegoat starts to internalize these criticisms, adopting them as their own limiting beliefs. The joy once found in their creative endeavors begins to wane, replaced by a gnawing sense of futility. Why bother pursuing something that is constantly ridiculed, diminished, or deemed pointless? Why invest energy in friendships that are always portrayed as superficial or exploitative? Why strive for career goals that are deemed unattainable or insignificant? The once vibrant inner world of the scapegoat begins to dim, its colors fading into shades of gray. The contrast with the majority of people is stark, almost painful. While others are encouraged to follow their dreams, reach for the stars, or find their true calling, the scapegoat is systematically conditioned to believe that such pursuits are not only futile, but inherently selfish or foolish. Their dreams are not celebrated. They are dismantled. Their passions are not nurtured. They are ridiculed. Their aspirations are not encouraged. They are crushed under the weight of relentless negativity. This continuous invalidation slowly but surely hollows out the individual's sense of purpose, leaving them feeling adrift, unmotivated, and utterly lost in a world that once held so much promise. They become the architect of their own apathy, not by choice, but by the insidious design of the primary narcissist, leaving them vulnerable and perfectly primed for further psychological control. The insidious architects of apathy do not cease their work once the blueprint is laid. They proceed to dismantle the very foundations of self-worth. This brings us to the second principle of narcissistic domination, a tactic so pervasive it creates an internal desert in the most vibrant souls, the void of validation. Imagine, if you will, a vast, echoing chamber within the inner world of the scapegoat, where every achievement, every effort, every spark of genuine brilliance is met not with applause, but with a hollow silence, or worse, a distorted echo that twists recognition into ridicule. This is the echo chamber of emptiness, a psychological construct meticulously crafted within the family system to starve the scapegoat of the essential nourishment required for healthy self-esteem. Developmental psychologists consistently emphasize the critical need for external validation in a child's healthy psychological development. Dr. Alice Miller, a renowned expert on childhood trauma, once powerfully stated, "The child is completely dependent on the parent's love and care. If this love is missing, the child's soul dies." While her words speak to extreme neglect, the principle extends to the subtle, yet devastating, deprivation of validation. Just as a plant needs sunlight and water to flourish, a human spirit needs genuine recognition, praise, and affirmation to develop a robust sense of self and purpose. Without it, the individual remains perpetually stunted, forever reaching for a light that is deliberately withheld. The primary narcissist is a master of this deprivation. Their methods are varied, yet consistently effective in eroding the scapegoat's belief in their own capabilities and inherent value. One common tactic is the outright withholding of praise. The scapegoat might achieve a significant milestone, perhaps earning a scholarship to a prestigious state university, securing a highly competitive internship in Silicon Valley, or closing a major deal at work that boosts their company's bottom line. In a healthy family, such accomplishments would be met with genuine pride, celebration, and explicit verbal affirmation. In a family system dominated by the primary narcissist, however, these moments are often met with a chilling silence, a dismissive shrug, or a swift change of subject. The achievement is simply ignored, as if it never happened, leaving the scapegoat questioning its significance and their own perception of reality. Was it really that good? They wonder, the absence of validation louder than any praise could ever be. Even more insidious are the backhanded compliments. The primary narcissist might offer a seemingly positive remark, only to immediately undercut it with a subtle jab. "That's a decent job for someone with your limited experience," they might say, after the scapegoat has poured countless hours into a project. Or upon hearing of a promotion, "Well, it's not exactly CEO, but it's a start, I guess. You always were a bit lucky." These are not compliments. They are carefully disguised insults, designed to inject doubt and shame even in moments of success. They ensure that the scapegoat never fully enjoys their achievements, always feeling an underlying sense of inadequacy, a nagging suspicion that they are not truly good enough, or that their success is merely accidental, rather than earned. The message is clear. Any positive outcome is either insufficient or undeserved. Perhaps the most infuriating manifestation of this principle is the primary narcissist's tendency to take credit for the scapegoat's achievements. If the scapegoat excels in a particular field, the primary narcissist will often weave a narrative where they were the true architect of that success. They only got into that program because I pushed them so hard in high school, or I taught them everything they know about business. They'd be nowhere without me. This robs the scapegoat not only of their external validation, but also of their internal sense of accomplishment. It tells them that their efforts, their talent, their perseverance are not their own. They are merely extensions of the primary narcissist's influence. This psychological theft is profoundly disorienting, further blurring the lines between their identity and the manipulative projection of the primary narcissist. Consider a practical example, a scenario all too common in the inner world of the scapegoat. Sarah, the scapegoat, works tirelessly for years, finally earning a significant promotion to a senior management position at a well-respected marketing firm in New York City. She's been recognized for her innovative campaigns and her leadership skills, a testament to her dedication and talent. When she shares this exciting news with the primary narcissist, hoping for a moment of shared joy and pride, the response is devastatingly predictable. "Oh, that's nice," the primary narcissist might say with a dismissive wave. "But remember that time you almost failed that marketing class in college? You've always struggled with presentation skills. I bet you just got lucky with a weak pool of candidates. Or maybe your boss felt sorry for you." Alternatively, the primary narcissist might immediately pivot to themselves. "I always told you to network more. It's thanks to my connections that you even got your foot in the door in this industry. Really, you owe me for pushing you all those years." The impact on Sarah is immediate and profound. The joy she felt moments before evaporates, replaced by a familiar knot of anxiety and self-doubt. She starts to replay every interaction at work, searching for evidence of her supposed luck or her colleagues' pity. The promotion, a symbol of her hard work, now feels tainted, an undeserved fluke. This constant starvation of genuine validation creates a deep-seated belief in her own insignificance, a core conviction that she is fundamentally unworthy of praise, love, or success. The echo chamber of emptiness amplifies these negative internal messages, making her believe that her accomplishments are fleeting, her worth conditional, and her very existence somehow flawed. The contrast with healthy individuals could not be starker. When a healthy person achieves something, they receive and internalize positive validation. Their parents, friends, and mentors celebrate their successes, reinforcing their self-worth and competence. They build a robust internal framework of self-esteem, understanding that their efforts yield results and that they are capable, valuable individuals. They learn to trust their own judgment and to derive satisfaction from their accomplishments, regardless of external opinion. This internal validation becomes a powerful resource, allowing them to navigate challenges and setbacks with resilience. For the scapegoat, however, this vital internal resource is constantly depleted. The deliberate denial and distortion of validation by the primary narcissist ensures that the scapegoat remains perpetually off balance, constantly seeking external approval that will never truly be given. This unfulfilled hunger for affirmation leaves them vulnerable, desperate for any shred of recognition, which the primary narcissist can then exploit to maintain control. If the scapegoat believes they are nothing without the primary narcissist's approval, they will remain tethered to the family system, unable to break free and forge their own path. The nihilistic seed planted earlier, the belief that nothing truly matters, finds fertile ground in this void of validation. If their achievements are meaningless, if their efforts are always diminished, then what is the point of striving at all? Why invest meaning in a world that constantly tells them they are insignificant? But here is where the cycle can be broken, where the insidious design can be unraveled. The first step is recognition, seeing these patterns for what they truly are, deliberate acts of psychological manipulation, not reflections of your inherent worth. The second, and most crucial, is the courageous act of self-reclamation. You must consciously choose to fill that void from within. You must become your own most ardent advocate, your own most reliable source of affirmation. This journey begins with a profound shift in perspective. You are not defined by the absence of their praise, nor by the toxicity of their compliments. Your worth is intrinsic, immutable, and independent of any external judgment. It is a fundamental truth that resides within you, waiting to be acknowledged and embraced. The power to validate your own existence, your own efforts, and your own successes lies solely within your grasp. It is a power that the primary narcissist has desperately tried to suppress, knowing that a self-validated scapegoat is a free scapegoat. Take a moment now, in the quiet sanctuary of your own mind, to internalize this truth. Repeat this affirmation, not as a hollow phrase, but as a declaration of your burgeoning independence, a statement of defiance against the years of psychological warfare you have endured. I choose to validate my own worth, regardless of external approval. This isn't just a mantra. It's a commitment to yourself, a promise to honor your own journey, your own achievements, and your own inherent value. As we conclude this exploration into the dark corners of narcissistic family dynamics and their nihilistic tactics, remember that knowledge is not just power, it is liberation. You have journeyed through the intricate web of manipulation, from the insidious planting of nihilistic doubt to the creation of an echoing void where validation should have thrived. You have seen how the primary narcissist, aided by the enablers, seeks to dominate the inner world of the scapegoat, trapping them within the family system. But with this understanding comes the key to unlocking your cage. The path to reclaiming your mind, your purpose, and your identity is not easy. It requires courage, introspection, and a fierce commitment to your own well-being. It means recognizing that the distorted reality presented to you was never the truth, but a carefully constructed illusion designed for control. It means nurturing the seeds of self-worth that the primary narcissist tried to bury and allowing them to blossom into a vibrant, unshakable sense of self. Your journey towards healing and self-discovery is a testament to your resilience, a powerful act of defiance against those who sought to diminish you. You have the power to break free from the echo chamber of emptiness and build a world where your achievements are celebrated, your efforts are recognized, and your worth is non-negotiable. This is your life, your narrative, and it is yours to write. If this deep dive into the mechanics of psychological manipulation has resonated with you, if it has illuminated aspects of your own experience or given you the vocabulary to understand what you've endured, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your engagement helps us reach more individuals who might be silently struggling with similar dynamics. Subscribe to our channel for more insights into strategic psychology and personal empowerment, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced the void of validation? How did you begin to reclaim your self-worth? Your story could be the beacon of hope someone else desperately needs. Your journey to reclaiming your mind and validating your own worth starts now.